Hello, day one of Quadratics. Can't wait for this life. Just wanted to show you a few things, how the folders and stuff are going to be changing as we move on to a new and final tier, a final unit. So I kind of moved a couple of things around. The videos are still the videos, but I made a new folder with your packet in it. So when you look here, this is where you're going to get all the information and all the materials, basically the packet that I'm working off of. Please message me if it's difficult for you. I know that this now is the first one that is not physical. If you can't print it, we'll see what we can do. If anything, I don't know. We'll try to make something work. So if you're having trouble like with the packet and having one, not having one physically, message me and we can talk about it. So back to the folders. Office hours link, Friday link is still the same. However, the agenda and helpful information folder has simplified. So your weekly agenda will still be here. We'll talk about that in a second. But Unit 7, so everything that I put in here about polynomials, like your whole the packet basically, that factoring graphic organizer, I'm going to put that other Quizlet review in here, and your answer keys I'm going to put in here as well. They're all in their own unit. So now you're going to have your own unit for Unit 8, your own folder, so that will be good. Give me 1 second here. Hold on. Sorry about that. Anyway, so yes, you're gonna have your own folder on the Quadratics packet. I will also post the answer keys so you can check your practice in here, and any kind of links, Quizlet sets, whatever I'm gonna put in this folder. All right. So let's take a look at the agenda for today, Thursday, even though I'm recording this video on Wednesday, but Thursday, you and I will both start the new packet. So page 1, so you need to kind of get that first. I don't know if you want to use it online or print it or just take notes on paper or whatever. But you have it. It's there for you to open up and look at. So you're going to be doing and practicing homework number 1. I'm going to be doing the whole lessons practice with you. This might be, a little bit of a longer video, so I apologize, but it is all new information, so we just need to get through it. All right, well, with that being said, let's get started. So I filled in all this stuff for you already. So I'm going to just take a second and I guess explain it for you. And Quadratics, even though this is a new unit, this is not new to you. We've talked about parabolas. We've talked about equations with an x squared term before. We've labeled them. Quadratics has anything to the second power. And we've talked about standard form and polynomials. So even though this seems brand new, it's really not brand new. There's a couple things, yes, that will be, but for the most part, we did key features of graphs in the beginning of the year, and you guys talked about minimums and maximums, domains and ranges. So this stuff is not brand new to you, and I'm glad about that because hopefully it'll make a little bit of sense now that it's finally all coming together. So the standard form of a quadratic equation is this: y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. You recognize this as our polynomials that we mostly worked with as a trinomial, and a matters a lot, and so does b in quadratics. Okay. So when it's graphed, a quadratic equation creates a parabola. It is a U-shaped curve, and it's called a parabola. Once again, you know that word from before, and we're finally working with them now. So ignore where it says use your graphing calculator unless you do have one. I know Jessiel has one. Unless you do have one and you want to graph those two, you'll be able to see the vertex and the axis of symmetry. But the main thing I want you to see here, if A, meaning whatever's in front of your x squared term, is positive, like this one is, it opens up, and this says like a smile. I know that's cheesy, but it opens up if A is positive. So if you're positive, you're smiling. And if A, meaning the number or coefficient before the x squared term, is negative, it's going to be opening down like a frown. So it's negative, you're frowning, you're down. You're positive, you're up, you're smiling. So think about it that way. I guess it kind of makes sense. Okay, so now these two new terms for you. Actually, they're not even new, to be honest. They're not even new because we talked about axis of symmetry when we talked about graphs before. So now, I guess formally, The axis of symmetry is a vertical line, which is why it is an x equals line, which I wrote that right here as a little note. The vertical line that divides the parabola in half, and in half means 2 equal parts. This will be a very important formula for you in this lesson and the lessons to come. You will need the axis of symmetry and the vertex for a very long time. Okay, so x equals because it's a vertical line. Whatever you get for x, that is going to be the x coordinates, and we can write that down right here. This becomes the x coordinate of the vertex. And we'll see that as we practice. Okay, this is the formula. So x equals negative b over 2a. So if we're looking at a parabola or an equation in standard form, we're going to take whatever b is, make it negative, and then divide it by 2 times whatever a is. So in this case, the vertex would be negative 2 over 1. Oh, sorry, over 1 times 2. So this one would be negative 2 over 2 times a, which would be negative 1, which is why this kind of line is right over here by negative 1. In this one, it would be negative b, so negative 3 over 2 times negative 1, which would be negative 3 over negative 2, which would be a positive 3 over 2, which is why this one is over here on a positive 1.5 side. So the axis of symmetry is where your vertical line is. It tells you kind of where your parabola starts. And then the vertex would be like this point right here or this point right here. It's when you're going down or up a curve, right? This one here, you're going down, 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 down. And then at the vertex is the turning point. Now it starts going up, 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 up. Over here, it starts going up, 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 and at the vertex or the turning point, it starts going down. So that's how we can explain a vertex. A vertex is an x, y point, and I will always ask for a vertex in a coordinate form. So x comma y in parentheses as a coordinate. Okay, when the vertex is at its lowest point, aka the first positive graph that we have, it is called a minimum. This is the lowest point that a parabola can have. It will not go any further than this. If it's opening down, like this negative parabola, your vertex is a maximum. It's at its highest point. It's kind of counterintuitive to think of, oh, well, if my parabola is positive, it has a minimum. If my parabola is negative, it has a maximum. But that's the truth. That's how it is. Okay? And that's that. Those are the 3 kind of new pieces of information that you have, like a positive, negative, the axis of symmetry, and a vertex. Those are the new pieces that you have now. And all this lesson is kind of going through is telling you how to put them into action. So before we even start graphing or answering a ton of questions about these parabolas, we're going to have to take the important information out. And when I say important information, I mean axis of symmetry and vertex. So this is going to get you in the habit of doing that for every equation that you have. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to label B and A in each one of these, and then that'll make it a little bit easier for us to find the axis of symmetry. And then we're going to sketch a parabola. A sketch is not a perfect graph, it's just a sketch to see the shape. Okay, so in this problem, A equals 1 and B equals 8. Okay, so to find the axis of symmetry, we need x equals negative b over 2a. So we're going to plug that in to say x equals negative 8 over 2 times 1, which equals negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. So that means x equals negative 4. And I know that my x coordinate of my vertex is going to also be negative 4. So this number goes here and here. Now, how do you think that we find the y value of this? We have to plug in. So to find y value of the vertex, plug in x value from the axis. And I could probably highlight that because that's an important piece of information, right? Oh, I miss talking to you guys. Okay. So here's that. So in order to find the y value, we're going to take that equation and we're going to go y equals. we're going to plug in negative 4 squared, because that's negative x squared, plus 8 times negative 4 plus 15. And then you just simplify that. So negative 4 squared we know is 16, plus 8 times negative 4 is really minus 32, and then plus 15. Okay, so y is going to equal, well, 16 minus 32, this becomes negative 16. Negative 16 plus 15 is negative 1. So this now is our y value. And that's our vertex. That's our vertex. So if we wanted to sketch, I know we didn't save enough room to sketch this, we would have an axis of symmetry at negative 4. So if I wanted to do this, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, axis of symmetry, I know it's going here, and it is opening up. My vertex is at negative 4, negative 1. So a sketch would be like that. Sorry, that was cramped. Next time I'll try to leave more room so I can sketch it in this little area right here. So to recap what we just did, we used our axis of symmetry formula with this equation to plug in negative b and a. When we did that, we got our x value. Our x value means the axis of symmetry, like what line divides our parabola in half. Well, the line at x equals negative 4 divides this one in half. Okay, well, I've got half of my vertex now, because I know that obviously if something divides a parabola in half, it has to be one part of the coordinate. So now that I have one part, I have an x, I need my y. In order to get my y, I have to plug it into the original equation, and then I get a y. So now I have my vertex, now I have an axis of symmetry, and I can sketch my graph here. Okay, I'm going to turn the page, and again, I'm going to be more conscious and leave more room to sketch this graph. Okay, we know, I'm going to write the formula up here so I don't have to keep writing it, as I suggest you should as well. So this is the axis of symmetry. And then the vertex is x comma y, and then you find y by plug in x. Okay? All right, so let's label a and b first for number 2. A is negative 1 because it says negative x squared, and b is a positive 10. All right, using our formula, that means that our x is equal to negative b over 2 times negative 1. So that becomes negative 10 over negative 2. So that means x equals 5. X equals 5. So I'm going to put x equals 5 here, and I'm going to put 5, and then something is coming after we find out what y is. So I'm trying to color code a little bit better here. So everything in pink is what we got from our x, and then now how do we find our y? Well, we plug this in. So we're going to plug in. We got to plug it into this equation. So y equals negative 5 squared. We'll talk about why I put that outside parentheses in a second. Plus 10 times 5 minus 23. And again, I didn't leave much room for a sketch. So let me move it over a little bit. Okay, so why do we put this in just the 5 in parentheses? I'm going to erase this. The 5 goes in parentheses because the whole x, the x is being raised to the second power, not negative x. If it was negative x, it would both be in parentheses. So this is just y equals negative 5 squared plus 10 times 5 minus 23. Okay? So negative 5 squared becomes negative 25 plus 50 minus 23, so y is finally equal to, and then we work through this. Negative 25 plus 50 is 25, and then you do 25 minus 23, we get y equals 2. So now what I have in purple comes from my y. What this means is that we have a graph or a parabola. Now I have more room for my sketch. Okay, so we have on the positive side, so I should have made this a little more room on the positive side. Okay, you don't have to make a perfect sketch every time. I just, want to show you a little bit better where this is. So at x equals 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a vertical line at x equals 5 for the axis of symmetry. So we know our graph is going to either open up or down at that line. Now we know more specifically where this graph starts. It starts at 5, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is our axis of symmetry, and then we're going to go up 2. Okay, now how do I draw this? Do I draw it up like a smile or down like a frown? Well, in order to figure that out, you look at the original equation. This is negative, so that means it's going down like a frown to Chinatown. Anyway, here's your sketch. Here's your graph. Opens down. This should have been a more centered vertex, but I think you get the point. Okay, let's try this again. So a equals, in number 3, a equals 3, b equals negative 12. Okay, so to find our axis of symmetry, we're going to do negative b. So what does that mean? That means it's going to be a negative negative because b is negative. So that's what this looks like. Negative b means a negative negative 12. Well, negative negative means positive. So it's basically 12 over 6, which means that x equals 2. So we just found our axis of symmetry. We just found the x coordinate of our vertex. What do we do to find our y? Well, if you find an x and you need a y, plug it in. So that's what we're going to do. So we're plugging in y equals 3 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 5. So 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Minus 12 times 2, so that's minus 20 plus 5. So y is equal to, let's do this mentally, 12 minus 20 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. So we've got our vertex, we've got our axis of symmetry, and we know that this opens. We can do this too. We can say how this opens up or down. So number 2 opened down, number 3 opened up. So when we do our sketch, our vertex is going to be at 2 negatives, so we're going to go down a little bit. Don't need to draw it that big, but whatever. So axis of symmetry is at 1, 2. Okay, and then our vertex is at 2, negative, 1, 2, 3. We already said it's opening up, so we're going to do bam, bam. That one was a little bit better than the first one. That's your sketch. That's what it looks like. Hopefully this is making a little bit of sense. And then we'll go to the next one. So with number 4, we want to label A equals 4. I am recording, right? Yeah, okay, good. That would have been tragic. A equals 4, B equals 8. And where is this opening, up or down? Since A is positive, this is opening up. Okay, our axis of symmetry, we're going to get x equals negative b, so negative 8 over 2 times 4. Well, negative 8 over 8 becomes negative 1. So now we have our axis of symmetry, and we have our y value of the vertex, or x value of the vertex, sorry. How do we find the y? Plug it in. So y is equal to 4 times negative 1 squared plus 8 times negative 1 minus 1. So do that math. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 8 times negative 1 is negative 8 minus 1. Let's do this mentally. So 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. Put your integer skills to the test. Okay, we have our axis, our vertex. Now it's time to sketch. So negative 1, negative 5, that means it's in the third quadrant. Okay, so our vertex is at negative 1. I didn't need to make it that big. I didn't need to make it that big. Okay, here's negative 1. Our vertex, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just laughing at the ridiculousness of this line. Okay, so here's our vertex. We already know it's opening up, so we're going to open the parabola up. And there's your sketch. So if we were in class, I know I would be getting a lot of whining and groaning about, oh my God, do I have to sketch it? Yes, you have to sketch it because this is preparing you for tomorrow when we actually graph. So you're kind of there with graphing, right? You just don't have your grid. So your sketches is kind of making it easier for you to prepare to graph. So number 5, we're going to do the same thing. A equals negative 1. B equals negative 4. This is opening down because A is negative. So x equals negative b over 2a. So now we've got two negative values. So negative negative 4 becomes a positive 4. 2 times negative 1 is over negative 2. So that means x is equal to negative 2. Okay, to find our y, plug it in. So y is equal to negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 minus 2. My gosh. Again, same thing with number 2. A negative goes outside of whatever you're plugging in for x because what x is being squared, not negative x. So negative 2 squared is 4, and then we bring down the negative. So that's going to mean negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 2 is plus 8, and then we bring down that minus 2. Mental math, ready? Negative 4 plus 8 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2, so that's our y value of the vertex. Okay, ready for your sketch? Negative 2, 2. I want you guys to start thinking logically as I'm doing is how you're going to sketch this. Well, if my vertex is at negative 2, 2, I need the second quadrant ready. Maybe not as big as I'm going to make it, but you need to focus on that second quadrant. So if your x or your axis of symmetry is at negative 2, you're going to sketch an axis of symmetry, and you've got negative 2 up 2. Here's your vertex, and check to see whether it's opening up or down. This one's opening down, so this should be my sketch. Now, if any of you are asking about the width, so how do I know whether to make this parabola really skinny or really wide? We will have a lesson about that, and that has to do with what A is, kind of like we talked about. What lesson was that? We had a lesson where we talked about the vertical, like a stretch and a compression. And we did kind of briefly discuss this. That's why I'm like happy that this is at the end because none of this is brand new. So it has to deal with what A is and whether it's a stretch or a compression. And the bigger the number is, the more it is like skinnier, it's thinner. So this one technically is not the perfect sketch, but we'll get into more of that later and how it's going to be wider or more stretched. Okay. Number 6, A is negative 3, B is negative 24. It is opening down because A, again, is negative. Okay, axis of symmetry, x equals, x equals negative B, so negative 24 over 2 times negative 3. So negative negative becomes a positive. So positive 24 over negative 6, which means x is equal to negative 4. Okay, to find our y value, we're going to plug this in. So y equals negative 3, negative 4 squared minus 24 times negative 4. We're going to need a calculator here. Minus 42. Negative 4 squared is 16. 16 times negative 3 equals negative 48. Negative 24 times 4, I believe, is positive 96. And then minus 42. So 48 is half of 96. So we know that this is 48. Well, I'm telling you if you didn't know. 48 is half of 96, so that means we have a positive 48 minus 42, which y would equal 6. Fact check me, bro. I'm going to fact check myself. I'm pretty sure I'm correct. Just want to make sure for you. I don't want to be embarrassed tomorrow and say, oh my gosh, you made a mistake. Because it is embarrassing. Yes, that's 96. And then 16 times 3 we know is 48. So yes, that's correct. Now with our sketch, we know it's opening down. So we're focused kind of on the the second quadrant again. So I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to make kind of just like a second quadrant graph. So our x, meaning our axis of symmetry, is negative 1, 2, 3, 4. And then our vertex is negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our vertex. This is opening down. And that's our sketch. We've got 3 more, and then you guys, I know you're so excited to practice on your own, but calm down. We're almost there. Calm down. So now what if you get a problem like these 3? I'm glad we're doing these because you're like, wait, what? I don't know. Where's B? So B in this case, A is negative 1. B is 4. There's just no C. It's okay. It's okay that there's no C. It's fine. This one opens down, and that's it. We're just going to take it as that. So negative B, which means negative 4, over 2 times negative 1. So negative 4 divided by negative 2, that means x equals 2. And then we're going to plug 2 in. So y is equal to negative, remember negative goes on the outside, negative 2 squared plus 4 times 2. This equals negative 4 plus 8, y equals 4. Sketch. This is positive, quadrant 1. So x equals 1, 2. Draw your axis of symmetry. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 is where our vertex hits it. So this is opening down. There's your sketch. Number 8, a is equal to 1 because there's no coefficient. And what is b equal to? There's no b. B is 0 because there's nothing. There's no middle term here. There's nothing multiplied by x. A lot of you may have mistaken this and done, oh, negative 3, but there's no x on negative 3. So in this one, we have an a and a c, but no b. So our axis of symmetry is going to be negative b. So we can't have negative 0, so it's just 0. And it really honestly doesn't matter what the denominator is because 0 divided by anything is 0. So this one is on the y-axis, and we will solve this now. So really it doesn't take a lot of solving. Y equals 0 squared minus 3. That means y equals negative 3. All right. Oops, negative 3. Axis of symmetry is our y-axis. Okay, and then we go up to, or down to negative, oh, I'm sorry, this one opens up. Negative 1, 2, 3, put a point, and then that's your sketch. Last one, A is negative 2, B, again, there's no B, so B is 0. Anything over B, or, oh, sorry, 0 over anything becomes, that's it, it's just 0, x equals 0. And I'm sure some of you have seen already, if we plug in 0 for x, we are going to get 8 for y. So y equals negative 2 times 0 squared plus 8, y equals 8. Sketching this, 0, 8, opening down. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8. There's your sketch of that one. So hopefully you see this as pretty straightforward. It's not that challenging as it stands. It's kind of a lot of algebra as it relates to graphing and functions. So as long as you can understand the formula that we use, this looks like a ton of work, but hopefully going through it, you thought it was pretty easy. The axis of symmetry, you need to remember that formula and then what to do once you get that x value, which is to plug into the equation that was given to you. And then to get an idea of what the sketch or what the graph would actually look like when you're ready to graph it. So your responsibility is to do homework 1 and answer the questions. There are 15, however, 5 of them are just kind of filling in the blank. So there are 10, just like the ones that we did together, or I did for you. Once again, your quiz, your Edmodo quiz comes from this paper, so it's in your best interest to do it. If you have any questions on it, feel free to come to office hours. You come to office hours and you ask me a question about a quiz question, I mean, there's nothing really easier than that, okay? So I hope you understood this. I'm really looking forward to getting into this packet more with you. So ask me questions if you have any. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you, hopefully I'll see you in Zoom. Bye.